We had a meeting here, this group here. Some of you guys were there, some of you guys weren't, where I was able to at least express my feelings about the professionalism and how you've handled things. I call upon that again. Make no mistake about it. This game wasn't about me leading this football team out there. That's not the story at all. I hope that we understand that. Gus Bradley was a major part, of what we did today. I think that it just goes to show, we weren't able to make some of the plays today in the past that helped us to win this game today. But, when you go in that locker room, it's not my team. It's Gus's team. And, I'm going to do the best job I can, to get this team ready. I thought that going into the game, we had some keys, both defensively, offensively, and special teams. We'll start with defense first. One of the challenges for us was their running game with Murray and Henry. They've been a team that if they've been averaging over 4.5 yards a rush, they've been, obviously winning a high percentage. I don't know the exact amount, but about 90% of their games. If they were held between 4.0 and 4.5, they were about 500, 2-2, something of that. But if they were held under 4.0 yards per carry, they were 0-3. I think defensively it's either going to be 2.9 or 3.0. We knew that they were going to challenge us going over the top. We saw that a lot. We knew that we wanted them to throw to the sides. We were okay with that. I thought they had some completions there, but they were tight windows. They were tough completions and good plays by their players. We knew that in the red zone they were going to go. We knew that Walker was a big part of the game in the red zone, so we wanted to make sure that we had him. Obviously, he scored a touchdown, which is disappointing from my standpoint. But I think that defensively we did a heck of a job. Jalen made a great play on the ball. He's been playing at a high level. Prince, for some reason, it looked like they were going after him a little bit. He came up big and being able to win those battles. Thought the D-line played well, obviously stopping the run. I think that's where we're set on defense. I think as far as the game goes, when you look at, hey, what are some situations in the game? What were some game changers? Obviously, the defense goes on a short field and holds them. At that point, that was a big, big stop for our defense. It's a very difficult situation to be in. It's a mentality that you have to work on. I thought our guys really stepped up and did a heck of a job. I think when you go to the offensive side of the ball, we're working on running the ball. We ran the ball early and had some good plays. And then all of a sudden they started doing a good job of stringing some things out. We had some minus plays, things of that nature, and that got us out of sync. Thought you saw today Blake play an outstanding game. He really did. It's a credit to him. We knew early in the week we only had 2 tight ends that were going to be active. So we pretty much played this game in mostly a 3-receiver set the whole game. So I thought our coaches and our players did a good job of that. We went in there thinking that we had a pretty good matchup with our receivers. We knew that we wanted to take shots down the field. We knew we wanted to get them matched up one-on-one. I think our receivers, obviously we lost some battles. We could have, had a touchdown early on. We didn't make that play. We thought that we were able to take advantage of if we ran our receivers down the field and they were conscious of playing over the top, try to run some intermediate stuff, whether it's a screen and take a screen for a big, long run. We had the one, missed out on a couple, but that was the thought process going in. So from an offensive standpoint, we were able to do a good job of the things that we wanted to accomplish. In other words, what we had to do to win the game. There's obviously some things that we can do a better job of. You go up by 12. You don't want to be up by 12. You want to be up by 2 touchdowns. You're very greedy. I'm very greedy as far as wanting to go up by 2 scores in those situations and not keep it under a 2-touchdown game. I think when you talk about special teams, I think a play that will probably get overlooked when you go across the game. Jason Myers did what we wanted to do. We didn't want them to have any returns. We wanted to make sure that that we're able to win the field position battle, which is something that when they've done that, they've had a high percentage chance of winning the game. I don't know, I haven't seen the stats if we won that or not, but a big play in the game was when our punter was able to flip the field, with that punt I thought really helped us out as far as some of the field position battle. So again, I appreciate everyone's time. I'm going to answer questions, and I appreciate your professionalism on it. So, Tad, if Tad doesn't have anything else to say, okay, we'll open this thing up.
Sure. Touchdown pass. What makes that the right time, right
Well, we'll give you the thought process of what was going into it. Was on the headset. You know, we weren't sure if they were going to be in their base personnel or their nickel or their dime, because we said that they've had, you know, numerous packages. So we knew that that was part of the game plan when we were able to get them in there. We were hoping that they went to their sub packages, knowing that they do play more man coverage out of those sub packages. So now we have a way to get out of that play if they're not in man coverage. So as soon as they went to man coverage, we know that play is alert, and we ran that play. You're talking about the play where Marquise actually threw a touchdown pass? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bortles, how much do you think he fed off the momentum of that first drive where he was pretty accurate, he throws the touchdown? Do you think that sort of set him on course?
Yeah. I don't know. I think when you get in a rhythm, you know, you want to stay in that rhythm. That's probably a better question for him to answer, is how he felt. I know that when there was about 6 minutes left before we scored that touchdown, there was a thought process going in of, hey, should we slow this thing down a little bit right here? But my philosophy is I wanted to keep the offense in rhythm because there was still enough time possession-wise for them to gain an advantage and maybe win the game. So I wanted to make sure that we scored in that position, but we had conversations about that on the offensive headset.
Doug, after the game, you didn't really show much emotion. You calmly shook the other coach's hand and you walked off the field.
Yeah.
Down. There was no.
I just
inside. What were you feeling?
I can tell you this. One, if there's an opportunity to be happy despite the situation, the first thought process, the first person that went through my mind was obviously Gus and his family. The second process that went through my mind were the fans. You know, when you're sitting there in the third and fourth quarter, and we really haven't given them a lot to cheer about, but I think at the end of the day, you know, the holidays are around. We all don't, you know, sometimes you sit in this room and you think to yourself, you know, I really don't feel comfortable telling anyone, you know, that I'm a Jacksonville fan because of what we all did. We're all part of that. But to be able to hear the crowd, see a smile on their face, you know, maybe when tomorrow morning with the holidays coming up, maybe, hey, you know what, they feel a little bit better than they've been feeling. I think that's important. I think as far as, and I take that same approach for our players, for our assistant coaches, for our organization as a whole has been through a lot. I think people, you know, miss that. You know, there are people in this building that work extremely hard that really don't control the outcome of the game, but they're in it 110% with us. I think, you know, it's a great challenge for the people in this room because you might have to change your style, you know, of what you're going to write about. But I really think about those people that have gone through this, you know, very difficult season, very difficult situation. I don't really get that excited. I'm extremely excited during the week in preparing the team. I'm extremely excited, heavily involved in what's going on in all three phases. But at the end of the day, I think I'm usually just so exhausted, you know, playing the game through my mind that you know, that's, you know, my wife can probably better answer that question.
How much should Corey Grant get a crash course on protections and stuff when he was going out?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a crash course. We had him prepared. Obviously, our coaches make sure that people are prepared. It was a crash course as far as throwing him in there and saying, okay, can he hold up in it? You know, knowing that the different packages, and that was a difficult team. We talked about this during the week. You know, Coach LeBeau does an outstanding job on packages and pressure packages. So, you know, for us to stand up there and go, and I think, you know, one of the things that people don't really see is Blake being able to stand there in the pocket, you know, take the hits and be able to throw the football. That's something that I think we all know, but sometimes we don't really appreciate. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I just think in general. But, you know, that's something that I've appreciated today. He hung in there pretty good.
Coach, so many scripted sequences for this team have failed throughout the course of the year. What made this one successful the first 10 or 15 plays, the way you moved the ball the first few drives?
I think level of focus maybe from the player. I think you got to ask the players that. I mean, every game we go in with that type of attitude, to try to do that. We got into a good rhythm. We got off to a good start, and you always want to start fast, and I think that contributes to the game, and having to play with a lead throughout the game. And that's an important thing in this league. The other thing is the players didn't know this. I talked to the coordinators about this, but if Tennessee had a lead after the first quarter, you're pretty much not going to beat them. So to be able to get up first and get a little bit of a lead and keep that behind was a big point in the game. How come no one here is excited? I mean, you guys, there's no smiles on anyone's faces.
Well, you had three rookies make big plays on defense. You had plenty of explosive plays. How much did this show off the talent that this roster actually has? I
talked to the players about that the night before. I think that we have to be careful as players and coaches when people are talking about talent and potential. A lot of times what that means is that you haven't created any results yet. And I think today you saw the players going out there and have some results.
I understand that you don't want to talk approach the situation, and I get it, okay?
Sure.
But how did you feel as a head coach being able to go ahead and redo this again since it's been a while? Did you feel energized being on the sidelines leading this football team?
I probably felt, my wife asked me the same question. How you feeling? I said, I feel great. I really do. I feel alive in practice. I feel not that, I wasn't before in my other position. I feel comfortable. I've been a head coach for 6 years, 4 in college and 2 in the NFL. So, for me, I don't want to say it's like riding a bike because that would lessen that position as the head coach. So I'm not going to go there. But I felt great. I thought the communication was outstanding. Again, the challenge for me was the communication with defense and the communication with game management, the communication with special teams, trying to get the coaches up to speed on how I communicate and how I want to run a game. I thought they were great.
Doug, you had a chance again today to work with Nathaniel, who you worked with in Buffalo as the offensive coordinator, Coach Van Field. How much of the play calling when you worked with him were like, okay, I think this is going to work, this is we should reject that? And was it the same thing again working with Nathaniel? Because it seemed like everything clicked.
Nothing's ever the same when you work with that cat. I'm just telling you now, okay? But I will say this, it's a little bit different for me. I don't get involved heavily in the small details of the game planning, but kind of the things that I said before when I came up here, hey, this is what we have to do. I don't think they match up with us well. We have to go ahead and throw the football. Okay, we may throw a little bit more, than what we did before. So for me, I sit there and I talk to, obviously, Todd Wash about the things I told you about the rushing, Delaney Walker in the red zone, how they're like 6-2 when he has, or 6-1 if he has over 50 yards receiving. If he's under 50 yards receiving, things like that. So basically, I sit down in all 3 phases, tell them, this is what we have to stop, this is what we have to do, and then I kind of rely on the coordinators to go ahead and make that run. Then during the week, I just sit there and make sure, hey, what are we doing here? Make sure we have this edges. Early on, they got to our edges a little bit. We didn't have the edges closed well enough. Made an adjustment, made sure everyone knew what they were doing, and then we shut that down. So credit to the defensive staff.
Guys on defense.
This may be the longest one I've done, though, but go ahead.
Guys on defense said this week they were embarrassed by that first half against Tennessee up there earlier this year. Did they prepare this week and play like that was a motivator they wanted?
Great question. Great question for them. I just go across and just try to be, show leadership, to the assistant coaches and players and get them to understand that you have to put the work in during the week, to get the results you want on Sunday, and those aren't guaranteed either.
Were you pleased with the play of your unit, or what's been your unit the offensive line today?
Yeah, I don't watch it as that, in this mode. It's like if I came up here after the game, and I was the offensive line coach and you asked me about receivers, I watch everything as a whole in my mind. So, it's very difficult to tell. I think, part of the conversation, a good piece would be maybe Benton should have been the head offensive line coach and Marrone should have been his assistant.
Last one, Coach, right in the back. How does this win compare to the 15 that you had in Buffalo as head coach?
I think, I went through a tough time. Early on, the second game in Buffalo, one of my good friends passed away the night before, Rob Edson, who was an assistant AD at Syracuse. And when I was a head coach at Syracuse, he would always be the one in the locker room after the game sitting with me, and we'd talk about the game, and he would always drive me back to Manley Fieldhouse. And he passed away the week we played Carolina. It was a very difficult game. I don't know if we won in overtime or won it, in the last drive type thing. We went down the field and scored. That game to me really meant a lot. It was important. I think it's not as extreme in this game, but to have spoken to Gus during the week and his enthusiasm and his excitement, for the team in a very, very difficult situation, I would say out of all the wins, this is probably the number 2 because of that and his support and what he wanted, the picture in his mind of what he wanted for these players to come together and these assistant coaches. So I would probably put it in that category.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Hey, happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you.
All right.